This is what we are looking at. There are MVNOs where you already have a database. You can run your own telco and people use your own airtime and you generate revenue from there.
The message was very clear. Number one, this is not just a conversation for women, because we know that there's men in the room that are decision makers.
Hello everyone, welcome to ITWeb on the road. Today I'm joined by Yandisa Sokangele. We're at the WiTechAfrica event conference and I'm just going to hear a little bit more about the event and what's the aims and goals for this event. Welcome Yandisa.
Thank you so much.
Okay, can you please just tell us a little bit about this event? What's WiTech?
Okay, WiTechAfrica is a newly launched business exchange platform that aims to bring together entrepreneurs, SMMEs and executives within the technology space. And we are organizing events, and this is one of the first events that we are organizing, which is the Telecoms and Data Center Summit. If you look at the technology industry, it's quite broad. So we are targeting specifically the sectors so that when we have an event, it becomes meaningful and impactful. So today we're focusing on the telecoms and data center. Right now, it's the era of the 4IR, it's the connectivity, broadband, is there, Wi-Fi, and also, the saying that data is the new oil. So we need to teach people about these sectors because they are part of everyday life. You are making a call, that is a telecoms. You are uploading your status and updating every day. That's part of the data, and that gets stored in the cloud, that gets stored in the data center. So what we're trying to do is to open up the opportunities and actually make sure that we teach people about these opportunities, especially women and also startups and small businesses, so that they can understand that there is a massive industry that has got so much opportunity for them, and there are a lot of corporate companies that have got programs like the enterprise and supplier development who are looking to empower these SMMEs. So we just want to make sure that they know about these opportunities first, and secondly, they know how to take up these opportunities, and thirdly, we are preparing them to be able to take up those opportunities.
Interesting. So I see your event is taking part in Women's Month, ironically, and it's a Women in Technology. What was your main idea? Why did you choose Women's Month, and why are you focusing on women? And how do you see kind of like the women in tech sector kind of growing?
Exactly, that was deliberate. We have to be very grateful that we have the Women's Month. That gives us these opportunities where we can amplify the voice of women. That's one thing that government has done for us. So we need to be able to take advantage of this month. And it has made us easy to bring the conference together for corporates to come in. So for this event, the attendees are actually sponsored by corporates.
Okay.
We got a lot of corporate companies to say sponsor an SMME to come and attend here. Okay. And we also need you to be part of this conversation, because we're not going to have our own conversation alone. We want executives, we want the companies, we want the decision makers that are going to be able to impact women. So for us, we really needed to launch this in Women's Month so that we can be able to amplify the voice and actually get as much traction, because right now women are looking for opportunities, and the more opportunities come for women, the better for all of us as a society.
Interesting. So in your conference, roughly, are you seeing a growth of like women leadership and women leaders, let's say, that are actually taking these positions as founding these startups that you are seeing? How are you seeing like the gender gap and the parity kind of aligning?
Yeah. It's very interesting to see that the gender gap is closing a bit, right? And we're seeing that in terms of leadership positions, and I think there's been a very deliberate attempt by the corporates, especially in this sector, where they're really taking transformation and putting it into practice, and which is something that we can really, commend them on. What we're seeing the gap in is the entrepreneurship space in the telecom sector. Okay. We've got a lot of startups that are probably technology startups, software-driven, software as a service, and all of those services. But we don't see them in the telecom sector. I think mainly because of the mindset and also the perception of telecoms. Telecoms by nature, you're thinking, oh, a tower. As a woman, I don't want to be going up that tower and all of that. Yeah. You're thinking trenching fiber. I don't want to be trenching.
You want a soft job.
You want a soft job. And by nature, we need to acknowledge that. There are certain things that women can do and there are certain things that men can do.
Definitely.
Honestly, I don't want to be lifting all this heavy stuff. Yes, I can, but I don't have to and I don't want to. I'd rather do that. So we're saying there are more opportunities. Even if you're a software as a service business or a startup somewhere, you can be able to offer your services within the sector, right? This is what we are looking at. There are MVNOs where you already have a database. You can run your own telco and people use your own airtime and you generate revenue from there. So that's what we really want to see and we are pushing for, to say as much as we're seeing the transformation happening, but we also want to see that in the entrepreneurial space where we're seeing more SMMEs growing, we see more small businesses growing within the sector.
Okay, interesting. My last question would be maybe what would you say to a young you, for example, that's looking to get into tech and wants to be a woman in tech leader like yourself? What advice would you give the young you out there?
Oh, to a young me, God, I do wish I had a young me.
That's why we need.
Yes, I do wish I had somebody who would have given me the advice. It is a very expensive business to start. Firstly, there's a lot of regulation that you need to follow. There's compliance if you're getting into the telecoms industry. Also, what I would really love to say, just network as much as you can. Learn as much as you can. Ask the questions before you jump in. Attend as many conferences. It's never a waste of money. It's never a waste of time. Attend as many conferences. Do as many webinars. Find a mentor. Follow people that are within the industry. Educate yourself as much as you can. And lastly, take action. It doesn't have to be perfect when you're starting. You might not know where you're going. You will learn as you go along as well. But just have the right people around you. Show up. It starts with showing up also. Just attending that conference and talking to someone, getting that one contact. That could be a person that can actually change your life. So do that. Get yourself out there. Do not limit yourself. The world is your oyster. There's so many opportunities for women. Take up those opportunities. It's okay to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. I always say, don't sit and wonder how to do things. Do it and wonder how you've done it.
That's a very key point. Thank you very much, Yandisa. And as you said, networking is the most important thing. And I'll let you go and network and let the people network. Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello and welcome to ITWeb on the Road. I'm joined again with Wabo Majavu. She's an executive and she's one of the organizers of the WiTech event. She's just going to tell us a little bit about the event and the keynotes from this event overall. Welcome, Wabo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you please just tell us about WiTech? What is WiTech?
Sure. WiTech, Women in Tech Africa.
Okay.
And it is an initiative that is bringing together women-led startups. And it is combining those women-led startups with established corporates, be it in the public sector, be it in the private sector.
Okay.
Now, yesterday we had our inaugural summit, which was a data center and telecommunications summit, focusing just on those two sectors and how we empower entrepreneurs in that space.
Interesting. So how are you seeing the startup landscape coming up, and is there kind of like funding for these startups? What's really going on in the startup industry?
All right, so there's a couple of things going on. So I gave the keynote at the WiTechAfrica, and the figures that I used in terms of investment into tech startups is, if you look at 2023, tech startups, we had about $6 billion for Africa tech startups. And compare that to about $150 billion tech startups in the US. Okay, so already you're looking at a smaller pool from a funding perspective. But then from the conference, we unpack other mechanisms for funding in terms of enterprise supplier development funds. And the message was very clear. Number one, this is not just a conversation for women, because we know that there's men in the room that are decision makers. Now, what we're saying to corporates and also to established entities in order to help a startup, in order to help an SME is, instead of using your enterprise, your ESD funds, just as a tick box exercise in terms of compliance, we now have these incubators that are able to look at your medium to long-term goals and start sandboxing or piloting minimum viable products, and then that helps you to disrupt from within. It keeps you competitive, you still make an investment, and also we spoke a lot about resource sharing. So sharing some of your subscription material, if you're subscribing to journals for market insights that perhaps a startup can't afford, just in terms of those costs.
Interesting. So as you know, now we are still in Women's Month, and we're just ending Women's Month. What was your key note to the women in the room? How do women actually make it to be an executive like yourself? And what was kind of like your advice to those women in the room on how to level up and be a successful startup?
Yeah. So at the end of my keynote, I talked about the transformation of leadership. And I spoke about the fact that we are now at, if you look at any, in terms of revolution, we look at the invention of electricity, we look at any major revolution. Now we're talking fourth industrial revolution. In other markets, we're talking fifth industrial revolution. Any change that is associated with a boom, the leadership style, the leadership models do have to be interrogated. Those pre-boom and those post-boom. That's the one element. And then the second element was, I always say, if it took me 20 years to be an executive, it should take you 10. We want to start seeing, and these are the platforms that WiTechAfrica is providing you. We're providing you the support, we're providing you the infrastructure, we're providing you expertise from mentoring to upskilling, everything that you're going to need, so that you go from cables to coding, from change agent to CEOs. We're seeing flatter structures, and so we can start seeing that upward mobility much faster than if we look at your traditional monolithic hierarchical structures.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Wabu. That was very interesting. And I hope the women that you guys brought together actually make it a success and get the most out of the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's ITWeb TV. Thank you. See you next time.